because our powers are limited. Criminal Procedure Act only allows law enforcement to do crime prevention. We've got no right to do investigations. And now the communities are saying, but the guy was arrested now. 2 days later, he's shooting again. So there's something broken in the system, and I think this is what Tinkonazi is saying in Parliament. As a councillor and as a son of Hanover Park who's grown up there, and who's been to many funerals. I mean, I've been to the funeral of the young boy that was shot with 2 bullets in the head. 4-year-old. It's not nice to bury a child, and that generation that flows from that is gone. Because we need to devolve powers. Because what we are saying, if I have a tool as a municipality to help you to arrest those criminals, shooting and killing them, and keeping our people hostage, why would you not use it?
Make sure that we understand that they to belong to a club or an organisation. There is hope. Make sure that I think educated person will say, listen, you know what? And today we have a special guest, Alderman Van der Rheede. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for inviting me, Rafee. Glad to be here.
No, finally. So tell the audience a little bit about how you got into this whole journey of becoming a ward councillor and actually an official, and what was your journey like?
Okay. My background is I've grown up in Hanover Park. Hail from District 6. Forcefully removed, to a Hanover Park at a very young age.
Wow, so you
attended school there, high school, and my journey into, I see myself more as a social activist. I started out with Grassroots Adult Education, which is still based in Athlone. It was during the height of apartheid. Worked there for about 7 years, learned a lot about community development and fighting the cause for early childhood development. That was my first, and then I went to Catholic Welfare and Development, where I became a trainer, a facilitator for the civic associations, because at that time, the civic associations did not know the policies of government and how to engage constructively, because they were used to in a system where we burn tires. So we taught them how to engage, and did democracy education, focusing on and work with the Human Rights Commission, training communities on that and how to engage also constructively. And then one of the programs which was very interesting was that I had to get youth to go overseas, because the whole thing of Gaza and Israel at that time already was a program that the Quakers focused on.
What year was that in, more or less?
Oh, it's about more than 15 years ago.
Okay.
So I would also attend the conferences, and I think the president at that time was Mahmoud Abbas. I think he was the president. So I would attend the conferences on behalf of the Quakers at the ICC, and engaging with organizations focused on peaceful resolution of that. So I would send youth over from Hanover Park, because we believe that you need to get peace, you need to speak to both parties. So that youth would go to speak to enlightened people in the Palestine, Gaza, and enlightened people in Israel side. And then come back and enlighten the youth and be part of talks in conscientizing the youth here. I also did non-violent communication. And if you've grown up in a colored community, a word like your masa it's a trigger for a person of color. And we basically, with the Quakers, know how language can become a catalyst for violence. And we would go into the prison in Paulsmoor. We would train the hardened criminals in the maximum prison and also the youth section on non-violent communication. And then we'd basically do an assessment, and we even organized sports day at Paulsmoor prison, where we brought the youth from outside to play against youth that is incarcerated. And then we also got the youth that is incarcerated to tell the youth, from Hanover Parks to Manenbergs, not to do the same or follow the same journey.
Nice,
end up in. So that's my background before I went into politics. So I think differently. I have a different feel of how resolve.
So you were the man on the ground with the poor,
yes,
with the guys trying to eradicate poverty and create jobs for people, that sort of thing. That was your calling all the time. Okay, so interesting. So then from there, once you left the NGO, did you decide was there some job opportunity or
I was also a ward committee member serving on the ward committee of a councillor later and way back many years ago. And he brought me a paper one day and he said, fill in. I said, what must I fill in? He said, no man, just fill it in. And it was an application form to become a proportional councillor while I was still doing. And I just filled it in just to get him to leave me alone. Came to court, the magistrate's court, and we sat there and I filled it in and the rest was history. And went to few interviews. The DA is very about processes and proper processes and interviews. You don't get just told you go. No, it doesn't. You have to apply and got interviewed multiple times. And then I think it was now my third term, 15 years ago. I was then became a PR councillor, proportional councillor at a by-election. And then I worked within the Hanover Park space, helping Councillor Latagan,
okay.
And that's how my journey started. But I'm a type of person, I like to...
You like challenges.
Yeah, and I like to be strategic. A proportional councillor doesn't really have much. You're there, but you
don't have much say.
Yeah, you don't have a particular ward that you're responsible for. Now, I'm a person, I like to implement things and see change and do projects that has a strategic outcome.
So when you became the ward councillor, obviously that's at Hanover Park, right?
Yeah.
So did you not, who was the previous ward councillor before that?
Councillor Latagan.
Okay, so
so I succeeded him, and and that was about 15 years ago.
Okay, so then you guys worked together and
he moved on to another ward and became a PR councillor, and I became the ward councillor.
Okay, interesting. So how was the first few years? How did people receive you? Because obviously you were not experienced.
Well, you see, I was experienced in Hanover Park because I was the Civic Association chair. I mean, when I was still doing my articles, I would write, and it was still during apartheid, I would write legal letters for some people linked to NGOs in Hanover Park when they were going to be evicted. I would write about the PI Act and you must do X, Y, Z. And the Grootboom case said this, you can't just evict, you must give alternative. So that was my adversarial role that I played. But obviously when you become a councillor, you then become part of policy. And meaning that there's rules that governs your conduct also. So obviously a lot of what I've learned, I apply to the benefit of my constituency. Because policy, in my view, policy is there to be changed. Because the society is moving and constantly changing. So policy can't remain static. And it's our job as policymakers, as councillors, legislators, to say that this policy needs to be amended.
So do you guys look at policies that doesn't go with your value system, or how do you, or sometimes maybe if a policy is good but it goes against your value system, how do you reconcile that as a politician?
Yeah, so every like the DA governs the municipality. Because we believe that governance must be brought nearer to people, we're the only municipality in the whole of South Africa that had sub-councils. Because in the old days, the elderly would tell you, hey, I got civic center too. I got Wylstraat too. Because they perceive that Wylstraat is where government is. But we have sub-councils where you have a collective of wards, like I represent the Mayor Jordan Lewis. He nominated me, and then the councillors of that sub-council elected me to represent him. So besides being a ward councillor, the other cap that I wear is a sub-council chairperson. So I I chair meetings and I have oversight over the administration with the councillors, and I see that councillors obviously execute their mandate. But the difference is with the DA that we brought in sub-councils within our municipalities, so that if you're already poor and you don't need to take a taxi to go to town, and obviously your ward council is in your area, in your ward, he's got an office there, it's directly accessible, but also even greater access if there's even something else that you need to, you go to the sub-council for any assistance, because the sub-council has a manager and a dedicated staff that has oversight over the administration within that jurisdictional area. And that's one of the things for me that I appreciate, because government is nearer to the people. You don't need to go to Cape Town and...
So you're saying that this only is happening now in Western Cape, or is it all over now?
No, it's just the way where the DA governs. Yeah.
So it's
not countrywide.
Oh, so they don't have so basically you have your normal municipality, and then from there the people, the policymakers, the caucus, right? So can you take us for a layman, how does that work? So that's the first layer, and then your next layer is what, and then to the ground.
Well, obviously the mayor we all compete like we will do in next year, I think November. You will have candidates, a mayor, and I'm hoping Jordan Lewis will stand again. He was an amazing mayor. Glad to be part of his team. Then he will obviously be the candidate as mayor. And when he gets elected, he chooses a team which is called a mayoral committee. And those are and if you say, for instance, if it's cleansing and
so how much more or less is that mayoral committee made up of?
I think there's about, I speak in the correction, I think there could be about 10.
10.
Depends, 10. Then he chooses them. That's his powers that he gets according to the constitution of the country. Then they represent different sectors on that, right?
Yes, portfolios,
so that's electricity, safety, and all of those things. And then at sub-council level, he also applies his mind and he nominates, but we get directly elected by the there's a special inaugural meeting, and then the councillors of that particular sub-council chooses me. So that's how it works. So
you have like two councils. You have the caucus, and then you have another council at the bottom.
But then we also, just in terms of legislative work, that's the political. Then we have full council, is where all the councillors is like parliament.
Yes.
Yeah, where you have parliament.
400 members of MPs, yes.
Yeah, we have council, and then where we come together to debate and discuss issues that gets put on the agenda.
And how many of you are on sub-council?
No, at full council. Oh, that's a good question. I think it's close to 200 and something. I'm now put on the spot. But yeah, so that's different parties, no? And then you also have sub-councils below that. And then also besides the council, that looks broadly, you have portfolios. So I serve on the community services and health portfolio, which is your health, your clinics, your libraries, your swimming pools, and all of those things, which is more around community upliftment issues, because that resonates with me strongly. So I serve on that, and that's where policy and operational issues for the whole city gets discussed. But then besides there, I also serve at the sub-council. And sub-council is where the councillors discuss local issues in their ward that is specific to their ward. And then you also have, which the law allows, is a ward committee. So the councillor will choose the sectors that he wants. If he said one for women, one for youth, one for this, 1, 2 maybe for the religious sector, Muslim, Christian, depending on the makeup of that ward, and he would choose. But then the organizations that is registered on that particular database by the sub-council can compete for that seats. So they become advisors to the ward councillor. Similar to you can almost say your ward committee, your MACO, that is also...
Yeah, but that's more on a smaller scale.
Yeah, at a smaller, at the ward.
So you're basically following the same fundamental principles, and you're all having your councillors around.
Yes, and there's no real criteria. You only need to be represented in an organization. Doesn't mean you need matric. It can be any auntie that has a soup kitchen, but if that sector is chosen and that organization then nominates the person to serve, but then you become an advisor to the ward councillor.
But explain to us, like, somebody that's not familiar with this politics. So how does it work with the seats now? Like if there's DA that's now won the most, and then now you get like maybe the PA, or maybe you get the CCC. So how does these seats allocation work now?
There's a very technical formula that the ISC. Because remember, you have ward councillors, means you compete for the ward, but then you also have a proportional seats, which it's a formula that the ISC, depending on how many votes every party gets. So the DA might win a ward, but then they also, based on the amount of votes they get in that ward, they also tick a box for proportional. But equally, other parties that also gets in that ward, although you've won it, if they also get votes collectively in that particular area, the ISC will allocate certain amount of seats, and that is determined by the ISC.
But then who will pick like what portfolios you would get if they seats? Say, like, just says like 5. So
obviously the party has a say depending on where your expertise is. So, for instance, if you're in a planning, that's your expertise, they'll put you on the planning and appeals portfolio. So the chief whip in the city that administers that, and then your party, obviously, because there's a caucus also where every party has a caucus. Now, obviously, the DA has the biggest caucus in the country. In the city of Cape Town, was the biggest sector. So they would then, based on that, councillors have to apply, and you might not always get your first choice. And then, based on your expertise, they will see where the gaps are and then allocate you like that. So that is behind the scenes how it works, and then the other parties would do, because.
So you don't have to be affiliated to the DA to get elected to the ward or sub-council.
You must be a member of the party. You must be a member in good standing. Means you have to embrace
to be a ward councillor.
Yeah, you can obviously stand as an independent candidate. Means that you maybe have an organization or an NGO that feels, I want to take up that space, that the law allows that. And there's a lot of that in the rural areas where there's NGOs that has credibility and not necessarily a political party. There are those eventualities, but in the metro, the majority is taken up. So for you to stand, you have to be a member in good standing, and maybe, obviously have proved yourself like any organization, and then go through a process, and then you are made the candidate. And then obviously if you win, you then represent that particular ward. And obviously the people will vote based on credibility. Candidate also plays a role. There is someone from the community in good standing, knows the people, because that obviously has a big say when it comes to local government, because it's about local issues. And
nice. So basically, now is your time there. What has been like your 1 or 2, 3 greatest achievements for your time there that you've seen from the time you've been there, or maybe the last term that you've seen has improved, and 1 or 2 things that you feel that you can be more improved on? But let's start on the positive side.
I think I've got a housing project that I won't want to use the word fighting for, lobbying for more than as long as I've been a councillor, and it's coming to fruition.
When you're
now.
saying a housing, you mean land, and they're going to build houses?
Yes.
Like they did in Langa, like you saw there? So you want to do that in Hanover Park?
Yes, Hanover Park. And
so is there anything there at the moment where the actual city built houses for Hanover Park people at the moment?
It was, I think, prior to my time with the previous councillor, but it's been more than 15, 20 years that we haven't had.
So nothing has been...
So I've been lobbying hard, because I make this analogy. I say the city of Cape Town is like a tree with fruit if you as a councillor don't shake this tree every single day, nothing is going to fall off. If you just sit there with your mouth closed,
Somebody else is going to eat that apple.
he's going to eat that apple. So I shake, and I say what needs to be said. Not always popular, but I've got a constituency that is needy. So next year, hopefully in November, the land will be handed over to the contractor. So that is something exciting. And then there's 5 other parcels of land besides. They will just build about 110 houses. But there's 5 other parcels of land that will follow, and then it's about 800 families that will get an opportunity.
Nice. So
And I think that's one of my legacy projects. I think it's one of the stuff to hand the key over to someone that's known to you. Not family, but someone that lives in that community that has been a backyarder for many years. So that is where politics and democracy makes sense, because it leads to something.
Empowerment, improvement. I mean, housing. That's great. So you're saying that the project is about going to start next year. So when will people have the keys of the house, more or less?
Well, the site will be handed over to the contractor. So obviously
that's next year.
Yeah. So it means that the civils will start digging up the grounds, and that's just the one plot. So I will have to continuously still fight to have the other plots activated, because there needs to be a tender in place. People need to tender. So probably a year from then, I'm hoping it's sooner, that I can hand over keys to that plot and then to go and move on to the next one.
When you're saying hand over keys to plot, that means they can move into the house.
Yes.
But that's also, then the other thing is, I know I don't want to be the message of doom. I mean, like saying, obviously, are you sure there's not going to be no extortionists that's going to come? Or have you spoken well over the
I'm one of those councillors that believes that communities must take charge and play their part, because what is sometimes happened with extortion is it has stopped projects, and it means that those elderly and the needy, that they are deprived of an opportunity to move into a house. So it can't just be a government problem. And when we rear its head, we must report it. Because there's sometimes organizations and individuals in communities say, yeah, but julle kykie na osie and we need to eat and we need to. That's nonsense. I believe that there's such a lot of opportunities in the city and in the system now, that if you feel that I'm in construction, then I must register myself, do the necessary, fill out the document, become compliant, because that's how a lot of people start. And I'm sure that your security guide, if I ask you how you started some way. So you took the time and the effort to invest in your craft. So there's no excuse that because you live in Hanover Park, you've used that. So I have a very dumb view of that. And government, and I mean the city, Alderman Foss, who's in economic development, they even have trainings for how to fill out the tender. There's no excuses. And if you don't know, you speak to someone who can advise you, and that's how you learn. So sometimes that is used as a flimsy reason to extort. So I have a very drum view, and if people, then the city has I'll give you now the anti-extortion line. And there's a unit within the city that immediately, if it's reported, will deal with it immediately. Because we cannot still, we come from a history where we disenfranchisement as people. We cannot allow that criminals in this day and age still want to disenfranchise our people from owning something that they can call their own.
Yeah, I know. Extortion is, I mean, it started out in Durban, because if you go to some of the cities, they do webinars and they'll say, like in Durban 2013, the construction, they started there 30% straight up. And then obviously the underworld started it here, and then it just exploded. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I could see how excited you were, and for actually building houses for any area, but now Hanover Park, I mean, the people there, it will be so great. I mean, it's something that families are having a house, and it's if that is your mission, it's a good mission, and I think more ward councillors should be advocating for helping the people. And so besides the housing, what's the other, maybe on a smaller, on a day-to-day that people don't get to see?
I believe in investing in people. I believe it has to be a balance act. You can't just have buildings. You need to invest in people and give people a voice. And one of the positive things that I've started a women's support group, and I believe that a lot of women go through a lot in our communities. It's abuse and
Domestic violence.
violence and all of these things, but a lot of women remain silent on it. So I started this women's support group, and they're doing well. And at some point, a lot of women are losing sons through gang violence also, and I believe that no mother raises a son to die at the age of 15, 16 due to
So
being
sad.
killed. So when that happens, we have to support. But there also has to be a conscientizing, and that's why I'll speak now on the youth. So
Yes.
that's why I gave the women a voice and support them, and they've been to training. I mean, they're coming back today. They were on a camp at Blue Waters,
Okay.
where they took some of their group with, and and discuss issues about women and build relations and it's strong women. And that for me is one of the successes that I see with the women, because I say always as a councillor, even politically, I wouldn't be able to achieve what I achieve if it wasn't for the women that supported me as a man. And the women are amazing in Hanover Park, and the place would be far worse off if the women didn't play their role. Very conservative place. People, church, they respect the law, but it's just the whole issue of the gang and drug addiction that is bedeviling the challenges there. But the women are stepping up, and they are becoming supportive. And one of the stories, when I was here, I spoke to the leader, Mrs. Aziza Rodriguez. He told me that they had a lady that's physically challenged, and she said she has 15 years ago driven in a taxi to go to a resort.
Wow.
She just sits in her home, but she gets help. She is in a wheelchair. Then she comes to the sessions every Wednesday. But if it wasn't for them that organized this trip, she would haven't have experience. And I mean, so she's now a positive memory because of this group of women that, with my office and my help, has lobbied and come together. And those are the stories that need to be celebrated. They might seem insignificant for some. We take things for granted. I just get into my car, I drive to where, but there's people whose realities are different. And for
100%.
those women, I salute them for creating that positive memory for. So if women start organizing themselves in every community like this, then we'll have a revolution with women.
No, that's amazing. What you just said now. So you're actually empowering women. So people that lost their kids in gangsterism, elderly women that are poor. So it's basically you going around. So if I'm one of this, and then just another thing is, so then so you'll have to fund this sort of project.
Yeah, with ward allocation, I funded it, and we got them some training in conflict management, and they graduated last year. What is this foundation? I mean,
But you don't get any drawback from if you want to go on a project and they don't want to fund it. Is it easy, or is it
the councillors get like I think it's we get like a 1.9 ward allocation. That the councillor has, according to the Structures Act and the Systems Act, the councillor can determine what he spends that on within the ward, because you get the bigger budget of the line departments, but at the ward level, the councillor can determine, and obviously the ward committee members would advise the councillor, maybe look at supporting this or that. But obviously, it's not a lot of money.
Because there's so much impact to make, and it's.
But I believe that everything I believe that I do has to be strategic. So I empower these women to become women ambassadors, to go out and support other women in similar, and to just make this group much stronger. and to become a support base for other women. When there's abuse or anything. So they obviously will be involved with the 16 days of activism and all of those things that goes with that.
Nice,
But
man.
they serve on the health committee. They serve on the ward committee. I started with this women, the Hanover Park Safety Forum, 6 years ago, because I believe that we can't depend on the authorities just to keep us safe. That we must play a role. So these are credible women that is respected, that organized with me, and we started this Hanover Park Safety Forum. And every night I have a phone, and I think Nigel knows. I can track because they have to post, and I count, okay, you patrolling. Because we can't leave our safety to others. We can't leave it to government. We must take charge because we know who's the perpetrators. This is the funny part. The people knows who's the perpetrators. But they need to get their voice back so that we say it's that guy that shot and that guy that broke in and that guy that sold drugs. Or
So we're getting successful stories.
Yeah, those, and they
arrests.
are. And I mean, Hanover Park was a LEAP area, but now there's a reaction unit in the area. And what the city has done is they've applied technology. You work smarter.
Drones and some sort of
Drones, and we have the shot spotter technology where on strategic places there's like a very sensitive
that can hear
technology
gunshots.
that picks up
They can-
gunshots.
They can ping where the
and
shot
ping.
was.
And through that, the reaction unit, coupled with some people giving sensitive intelligence, we've taken a lot of guns off the street of
I've seen
Hanover
that.
Park. Yeah.
Jordan, the mayor, and I think it was JP
Yes.
that were
So-
showcasing all those guns. Was that the same?
Yes, those pictures. I was there at that media launch in Hanover Park.
So was that mostly a lot of Hanover Park guns?
No, I think those were just citywide.
Citywide, they just took photos of everything.
But that represented a gun that was taken off the street. But the challenge is we have to, because our powers are limited. The Criminal Procedure Act only allows law enforcement to do crime prevention. We cannot do We've got no right to do investigations
And arrests.
and to open a dock. You can arrest, yes, but you must hand him over to SAPS. And now the communities are saying, but the guy was arrested now. He's in 2 days later, he's shooting again. So there's something broken in the system. And I think this is what Tinkonazi is saying in Parliament. So and as a councillor, and I don't want to say this as a politician, as a councillor and as a son of Hanover Park who's grown up there and who's been to many funerals. I mean, I've been to the funeral of the young boy that was shot 2 bullets in the head. 4-year-old. It's not nice to bury a child, and that generation that flows from that is gone. We must put politics aside because we need to devolve powers. Because what we are saying, if I have a tool as a municipality to help you to arrest those criminals who are shooting and killing and keeping our people hostage, why would you not use it? So devolve powers, let's test it. Devolve powers to province and to the city. It means that then SAPS and the city work together to deal with this complex issue of gangsterism. But I think there's too much still politics in the system. So for me, as a social activist, I would...
Are they not going to hand it over? Because the last I heard that they were working on it, and then the last I heard what Jordan was saying, I think I heard on the radio that they're working on jammers on Paulsmoor to stop the criminals
that
from
is with the
running
minister.
the enterprises,
Yes,
the criminal
that's-
enterprises.
That's what correctional services.
Yes.
But we want the Minister of Police to apply his mind. You see, he can recommend to Parliament. But the longer you take, more people die. It's one of those eventualities. And if I can stop another innocent person from being killed, then it's worth the fight. So if we can devolve powers, help SAPS, because that means that we can have detectives and jointly work. And there are those cases where SAPS and JP and Mayor and whoever behind scenes work together, complex cases, extortion and those. So it is there, but so I'm just asking because I'm a councillor in a red zone. in an area that is seriously crippled by gang violence. That if
They
we
say
can,
there's 11 red zones, I heard once.
yeah,
So you're
but
part of the red zone.
I'm one of those, yeah, because I've got a reaction unit in my ward, which is nice to have, but it shouldn't be like that because there's the moment someone sees, if you're a tourist and you want to Hanover Park, you say, ooh, red zone. Because it robs of us opportunities, it robs of us business opportunities, tourists to come, all of those things that other communities that are not red zones. Because even operating your hospitals becomes complicated. Because when they're shooting, where do they bring? They bring them to the hospital. So it has an impact on operations and staff and that. So I'm really appealing to the powers that be, the president and the minister up there and all the GNU and all parties. Put your politics aside, man. Let's really make this something that can benefit. And if you work together, we pilot it, say let's do this. I, as a councillor and as a son of Hanover Park who's grown up there, would sleep much easier because less innocent people will be killed through gang violence. And as a person that has worked in the criminal justice system, when I did my articles, because my background is in criminal law, our prosecutors are swamped. The prosecutor comes in the morning, he's got a docket, probably 50, 60.
Sure.
Now, how do you keep track? And that's why things fall through the cracks. And now the gangster comes with a hotshot lawyer. And that's how things it's a vicious cycle. And if you can have more resources available to stop that scourge, then why not use it? So that's just my appeal,
No, that's good. I mean, I think there is the society is trying to move in a better direction. So I think we do see improvement, but there's a lot more improvement that needs to get done. And I think that if government is not so bought over by the wrong people, by the cartels, like we're seeing there, I mean, it's allegedly, but we'll see now. I mean, if that is how, what's the step for us to actually undo this tangle that we're in, dealing with drug dealers, it's bought over government. It's a vicious cycle. I mean, how do you put somebody in their place that's doing wrong, that's funding you? So those are the things that we have to also try to basically stamp out.
It's people, not General Mkwan Kwanazi, who gave me hope. He gives me hope when I listen, when I have time to the.
There are still some good guys out there,
and that gives me hope. And the fact that he was willing to put himself in harm's way, and to say, "I'm a policeman, I'm going to fight crime." That gives us hope. We're a beautiful country, man. We got a rich history, but we just
the Rainbow Nation, eh?
Yeah, we just got sidetracked.
I want to end off with you can just tell us a little bit about the youth, what you're doing for the youth, and then
So one of the other, because my background is youth development, as explained, I believe the youth is our future. But as a councillor, I also don't want to be making decisions for the youth. The youth must speak for themselves. So during COVID, we started, the province had this youth ambassadors program where the minister then, I think it's Albert Fritz, with the premier, they put youth across the Western Cape in schools, 60 youth. And then I said to the minister, because during COVID, everyone was in lockdown, right? But in Hanover Park, it was like a holiday because people are used to trauma, where shooting and gun and death. And so an indivisible germ for them means nothing because I'm used to seeing the guns shooting and there's someone lying. So for them, so I said, oh man, minister, give me that youth and let me and another official called Jody Leas from the Recreation and Parks Department, we said, okay, let's partner. We got those youth, we did training, and we obviously did training on COVID, on the realities of COVID, the dangers. And we also, a child is like this. And because my ECD background plays an important part of any child, even adults, they play but just structured through soccer, rugby or whatever. So children learn through play. And I said, we need to do programs, fun programs. And then you come with your serious message. So we would go into courts, and this thing in the colored community, this gom dancing and all of those hip hop. So we used that, and we went into now, because Hanover Park has got these territories. It's amazing how children even put territories in their mind. They won't, even if they're not gangsters, they won't walk over to another area, gangs territory, because
Interesting.
it's psychological. So I said to Jody and the youth, if they're not coming here to our center and they're shooting, we go to the courts, the blocker. We go run programs in there. And that is why we started this journey with the Youth Impact South Africa. We went there, we ran programs, and then while they're playing with the kids, and I as a counselor, I speak, and then the mothers come out, and then I go into the homes to, while they run programs with the kids, I go check out, is there any service delivery or is there anything that people want? And that has been the model that I've been using in my ward. And it works beautifully because people have direct access to you, but their children get stimulated. And from that, we got Rick Fish and Zia. Rick Fish has been on Espresso 3 times. He's been on national news.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Inspiring.
He's from the area.
Okay.
He does hip hop dancing. And then Zia, who hails from Menenberg but came to Hanover Park, does Latin and ballroom dancing. And we started like that. There's about 5 couples that has now got Western Province colors. That because of that program. And a lot of our kids has traveled all over. They've been to a few. Our hip hop kids and the ballroom kids has been invited to the city when they have these awards, the staff awards. About 3 different departments invited them. And we also now started the Scouts. Hanover Park now has its own Scouts, the Hanover Park Eagles. In the old days, we would go. They give you a warm cup of warm milk, and they call it a honey biscuit. This was like a biscuit, big biscuit.
Yeah.
And that was a draw card to get us to the center. And then we would be told, you must bring us swords, and you would do flip-flops and some gymnastics with us. But we were also exposed to an array of programs and exercises and things, man, that was at this community center. So we want to bring that back. So the Scouts in Hanover Park has ceased, and myself and Jody, we said, how do we offer alternatives to kids to not go into gangsters? So this is some of the programs that we're offering. So the Scouts is about discipline, taking a kid out of the area like Hanover Park, somewhere where you can learn how to camp, how to make a fire, how to make knots, how to really grow as a person, and you get rewarded for everything positive you do with the badges, the Scouts. So we said, myself and Jody said, no, man, let's start the Scouts again. So we started the Scouts with the SA Scouts, the Hanover Park Eagles, and obviously Youth Impact South Africa, which is also now, because we need to change the name to Youth Growth Initiative. So this movement of youth is what should be happening in all communities, where youth is taking charge. And obviously I'm a mentor, but I've been using my ward allocation, and where I could, I've given money to employment, because I can't expect them to volunteer all the time. And then they would, and then obviously the mayor's office topped up with some funding when there was, and then they would run programs for that year. I mean, they've been in all the schools in Hanover Park. They've been to Mamre, to different communities outside of Hanover Park, Ocean View, Menenberg, all over. Because people see they got a following about 45,000 on Facebook.
Wow.
So
that's a big following.
And they even get questions about from New Zealand, all over. They've had students from overseas came to do their masters and to study what they're doing. So it's an amazing and exciting space, and the youth is amazing, but it's youth from our own community. So we say, when you shoot on the left-hand side at a particular area, we go run programs on the right-hand side. Because no child should be deprived of having some sense of normality because a gangster feels powerful to shoot. And we refuse to give into that. So you shoot on the left, we run programs on the right. And I mean, we go into the courts and we had movie nights. Then I bring popcorn
Wow,
that
that's
I've got from ward allocation. So that child, despite that, has positive memories on front of his doorstep.
There's
And
good
then we
people, there's
engage.
good things out
And
there.
then when they want to be more involved, they come to the community center and the civic center where they have, ongoing programs. And obviously I use the neighbor watches, the safety forum to go with so that while they are there, they are safe, because safety is a reality in those areas. But those programs, although they might seem insignificant, is what changes the youth's and those children's outlook. And now with the warmer weather, we're gonna do the jumping castles, slip and slides, and we travel all over Hanover Park with those equipment. So we come to you and we make it happen. So the youth, and this is my legacy project with Mr. Lees, giving the youth a voice, and they are vocal, and they also have a political opinion, and they understand what the role is. They can tell me, councillor, I mense praat nonsens van wat is councillor se job, en sit hulle reg in die plek because hulle verstaan nie wat die councillor moet doen nie, because they've been conscientized. I mean, they've been privileged. They've met the premier, they've met the mayor. They involved, in really changing the face of Hanover Park, and I'm excited. So yeah, out of this group, the future councillor might come. So you never know.
You never know. Now that you're speaking about that, how many more years do you feel you still have in your energy to still take on this fight? Because it's a fight, a daily battle.
Yeah. I've put my hand up again because I've worked too hard for this housing project, because now if I say, okay, I don't want to come back, now the housing project, and it's all about energy. Your council is your battery in the system. If the councillor has got to put their constant energy.
Okay, so you're looking at about another term, so that basically you at least if you see once you leave, your legacy project would have been the housing for those poor people, the women forum, and the youth forum. I mean, I think that is a legacy project you should be proud of.
Obviously, economic empowerment for youth. I mean, we've had a few sessions, and the youth has also partnered with the laureates SA, because they also saw what they are doing, and they took them. They call it the incubation hub, where they take you through programs, how to write funding proposals and stuff like that. Nice, so because of that, and that's the organization that Brian Abana chairs. And they've been there. So because of what they're doing in Hanover Park. So that's an amazing feat. And all I'm doing, I'm supporting, because the youth must be the front runners, So that's the exciting part. But they've been probably, if I must sit here, I'll have to sit here all day because of the other stuff that they're also doing.
No, we can always have a follow-up session. I mean, I can speak to Nigel, whatever. So basically, so you'll know in another year's time if you... after the municipal elections, that's next year.
Next year.
That's all when it determines the reshuffling, how things go on and whatever. Yeah. So actually, this is going to be a very crucial year now for service delivery, right? Because obviously,
and I always say you're gonna have a lot of characters jumping behind a bush and saying, hey, and being critical, but I believe that if you've been there as a councillor, you've been there consistently to the grindstone, and communities know your heart, and the party that I belong to, then obviously we're there and causing change, effecting change at a ward level, and 100%. that for me is where democracy means the most, at the lowest level, and I'm excited. So I'm going through a process. I've put up my name, and obviously you have to go through interviews. The DA is like that. There's no tokenistic. You must go through. You must be measured.
Yeah.
But I'm up for it because I've got a good story to tell for this past few years that I've been in the ward, and So
I want to thank you for taking time out to come seeing us and discussing. I've learned so much about the structure of how the councillor and the caucus. It's interesting. I think a lot of us are not in politics, don't really know. As us as business people, we just sometimes just hear what's going on, people fighting for seats and everything, but we don't really know actually the good things that's happening, So I'm grateful that you shared that stories with us, and I hope the listeners tune in and hear what the council and some of the councils are doing.
If I can just finish off with this, there's a lot of amazing things happening behind the scenes. I mean, I was just at the celebration of Mr. Ridwan Anthony's Hanover Park Football Club, 45 years in existence.
Ridwan Anthony.
Yeah.
He's our client.
Yeah. He won the Coke Cup. He's also in soccer.
Yes, he's big in soccer.
And that's so like that. There are amazing stories, but unfortunately the media.
We must bring him on. Bring Ridwan. Ridwan, if you listen, speak to Nigel. We'll get you on also. This show is also about just showcasing people doing good things.
Yes. So
our mission is also at Security Guide and whatever, and at Wise Guy also it's about skill development and job creation.
Maybe what you can assist us with, because one of the things that I've picked up over the years is that they don't teach the kids safety. They're not aware about safety. How do you, when there's shots going off, what must you do? What to protect yourself? And that would be an interesting topic.
We can definitely. But I want to thank you. All the best, Alderman. Till we meet again, eh?
Thanks for having me.
No. Thanks, guys. You've been watching the Security Guide podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. But it's been interesting. I've learned a lot. And just check us out in the next episode. Take care, guys.